Thank you very much for both of you coming here. I have to admit to you that I was really looking forward to listening to you both, and you haven't disappointed me, except I think I'm more confused now. And, and you know, I have been a criminal lawyer in the past. I have represented people who have been said to have been impaired. If I was still a lawyer, I'd have a field day with this. There's no, I mean, you know this, but I'm just saying to myself now, there's no certainty here, right? And we are going to, I'm asking you a question, but also thinking aloud, that we are going to try and say somebody was impaired where, at least in the roadside testing, the alcohol testing, there is a semblance of a scientific, even those, as you know, have tremendous problems. But at least there's a semblance of some kind of surety, right? I mean, you know all the issues around that alcohol, and in BC, it's not even taken seriously anymore, the alcohol testing. And so the question I have for you is, we will have this bill, but what a task we are putting on the police services. How are they going to analyze, or how are they going to put forward when is a person impaired?
I think you are putting such a burden, you're going to so much a reliance upon your DREs. You have some of the best of those in BC. I've worked with one of your DREs there. I think that you're going to need tremendous numbers. I think their testimony, you were a criminal attorney, went to defense attorney, you would know that they are considered credible and they have got data to back themselves up. I think in the absence of other things that we've been talking about, you're going to be highly dependent upon your DREs at this time point.
My follow-up question is the uniformity. You know, yesterday we heard from the Toronto Transit, and their cut-off mandatory workplace testing fitness for duty policy, if I understood them, was 10 nanograms. And then this departs from other companies where it's lower. Mm-hmm. And then this bill talks about 2 nanograms and 5 milligrams per milliliter of blood set by regulation. Now, there's no uniformity as to what is impairment. And that's another challenge, right? That I'm sure that the lawyers will bring up in the courts is what I'm trying to say, I think we know is 0.08 for alcohol. We can take that. Am I correct?
For alcohol, 0.08?
Yeah, is a given. Mm-hmm. But when I look at this and study this, I don't have a so-called given, and maybe I'm wrong, I'm not reading it correctly. Maybe the two of you can correct me.
Well, I can say about alcohol, where the kind of been very involved with that. Richard Compton, head of NHTSA, did a lot of the very key research on establishing what our levels are. We came down in the U.S. from 0.10 or even higher to 0.10, now down to 0.08. I think NHTSA would love to see it go to 0.05 because legitimately, based on epidemiological, very strong evidence, you could show that's where you start increasing crash risk is at that 0.05 mark. Some countries in Europe have gone to that 0.05, and I understand there's some sensitivity for that, sympathy rather for that point in Canada as well, of thinking about 0.05. But that is based on solid evidence of where crash risk occurs. Now, on an individual basis, there are people who could perform just fine at a 0.05, but we take it based upon we can't test every individual out there. This is a level at which we can say crash risk is increased. And when I'm studying drugs for the Food and Drug Administration, some of the studies which we've actually done with Alta Sciences, studying of various sleep medications, of antidepressants, what the FDA wants to know from us is what percentage of people are actually performing worse than a 0.05. Now, if it might be that 80% we're below, but they really want to know, gee, what is the frequency with which people are over a 0.05? That will be basis for them with respect to the safety of this drug and with informing potential users of the medication and also prescribers about how long should they notify their patient to wait or whether they should or should not drive when taking this drug. Very important information.
And then the added challenge is if somebody has taken other prescription drugs, then where is the impairment? If I'm on a prescription drug and then you know, and so that's the other added challenge to assess this, isn't it? Am I correct?
You're absolutely correct. I mean, just very briefly, what I felt that the driver, what your public, Canadian public, needs to know about the substance is, what is the crash likelihood? Am I really at risk if I do this of having a crash? They need to know, what are the legal consequences if I do this? They need to know, will they feel impaired? Because a lot of the drugs I study, people don't feel impaired. They think they're perfectly fine to drive. One of the last questions we ask before they get in the simulator is, do you feel safe to drive right now? And often they'll say, oh yeah, I'm fine, and they'll crash in 7 minutes later. So that's a big issue. They also need to know, how long after I use the drug before I can resume driving, I'm safe to drive. And the next question is exactly, Senator Jaffer, what you said, which is this question about, what about if I've taken other drugs? What will the impact be? What impact other factors would have? And these are important, like my experience of taking the drug, my experience in driving. If I'm a new driver, there may be different effects. What about my age? There are differences with some drugs with respect to age. There's differences with respect to people's weight. There's differences with respect to gender. Males and females metabolize drugs sometimes differently. And lastly, other health problems. If I have other health problems, might that impact how cannabis is going to affect me? This is what the Canadian public needs to know before they get in the car and drive after using the substance.
Can you tell them?
No.
Thank you.